What's up, party people? What's up, math awesomers? What's an awesomer? I love that. Anyway, welcome back. We're at it. We are still working around addition and subtraction or sums and differences of decimals. Today, we are going to talk about how to do that with problem solving, which is AKA those word problems. Okay, so those are those problems where you're like, wait a minute, this is math. How come I have to read so much and make sense of this? And I get it. I get you. I feel it. I feel it. But today we're going to talk about A, how do we tackle that? Um, and B, how do we make it feel a little more simpler when we're looking at so many words and just kind of like pull out what we need to know and do the job? Now, we're going to do that in a three-step process. Two of these steps are going to feel fairly new if you've been along on this journey. The first step, we are going to create an equation. Right away, you might be like, wait, what's an equation again? Don't worry, you'll be reminded in this video. Two, we're going to model. Now, I have a little arrow over here because like this, because I'm like saying, you could actually model first and then create the equation, or create the equation and model, like either or. I'm going to kind of show you how they relate and how you can use them to help with one another. And then we're going to turn around and solve. And then we're going to do the fourth thing that so many of us forget to do, and that is put a label, putting a label, put a label on your answer, right? Because if we're talking about a scenario in real world, then we want an answer that shows that in real world talk too. What? Okay, so we're gonna do these four problems or these four steps. Let's go ahead and dive into it. We have three word problems we're gonna tackle today. Let's take a look at the first one. So this says right here, beetles can grow to be as long as 1 and 25 hundredths of an inch long. Bees grow to be as long as I'm gonna guess that's a zero. It looks like a parenthesis type of thing. But I'm gonna go with 0 and 65 inches long. How long would it be if you combined both lengths? Okay, cool, cool beans. All right. Actually, I'm gonna model first on this one. So let's go ahead and think about what that means. And this is how we make sense of what's happening, right? I see this. I see this. How long would it be if you combined? These are some words that pop out to me. So when I think about that model and I think about combining, that is true. I am kind of imagining that I would have this, which is 1 and 25 hundredths of a centimeter. And I'm going to combine it, which means I'm just going to put it together with 0 and 65 hundredths. And then really what ends up coming out of that is my answer. And I'm going to call that A. I don't know the answer yet, but again, wouldn't that make sense in terms of a model? Is that 1 and 25 hundredths of a centimeter plus 0 and 65 hundredths, oh no, of inches, sorry, 0 and 65 hundredths of an inch. When we put those together, they would equal the exact same length, right, as this A box. And so that's kind of what I'm showing as a model. So look at that. There's our model. That looks cool. I like that. That's a cool model. Hi, model. I like you. Okay. And so now it's like, okay, wait. So now we're going to turn this into an equation, right? That's that next step. The next step is the equation. And like I said, you could go either direction on this. And maybe with the next one, I'll try to go equation first. And remember, all an equation is showing us what we're going to do. An equation has two or more numbers. So I see my numbers. I got them right here. I have 1 and 25 hundredths, and I have 0 and 65 hundredths. It has two or more numbers. It has an operation. So again, I don't see one in my model, but again, the model does show me what I'm doing is combining. So that means I'm going to be adding these together. So there's my operation. It has an equality, which means I do need equals to get an answer. And it has a variable. It has the unknown, and my unknown is A. So look, that's my equation. Isn't this cool? We've actually done two of the four steps already. We haven't even had to do any math. That's pretty dope. And I actually think that is good because it does help us kind of break apart, like, what am I doing here before I just start doing it? So there's our equation, there's our model. Now, step three tells us to go ahead and solve. So I'm going to use the stacking method by adding these two together. If you notice, I'm going to come over here and do the work. I am not going to even touch my equation anymore. I'm not going to do anything to it. It's done. But I am going to come in and put these together. I'm going to start in my hundredths place. 5 hundredths plus 5 hundredths is actually 1/10. And 6 tenths plus 8 tenths plus one more tenth is 9 tenths. And then my decimal is so heavy, it goes thump. And then one whole plus zero wholes is one, which means now I have 1/90 hundredths. So that's step three. Now watch this. This is step four. Watch what you're going to do. We're going to label, but I am not going to label over here next to my work. I am literally going to rewrite my answer. What should we, let's put it right here. I'm going to say 1/90 hundredths inches. There's my wow. I'm like, there's my label, but actually you can't even read that. That looks crazy. So let's write it underneath 1/9 tenths or 90 hundredths inches. And now I'm gonna go put my boom. Here's my answer. In fact, I'm even gonna come over here and get rid of this I dot because, well, that kind of looked like a decimal. And there it is. And there I have it. We just did that work by doing four pieces of work. Number one, let's see, I need another color here. Hold on, hold on, hold on. I'm getting a color. Okay, number one, we modeled. Number two, we made an equation. Number three, we just did the work. And then number four, I rewrote the answer separately off and on its own. So booyah, get with that, y'all. Okay, so that was quick. Does not matter because we're going to practice again with another problem. So we're going to keep spiraling. So think of those steps. Model, equation, work, answer. Labeled answer, I should say. Labeled answer. Let's label your answers. Okay, let's jump to page 3. Problem number 2. It says Mr. Shadid baked? No, I biked. I was on a bike. Woo, I was biking. I love riding my bike. 45 and 78 hundredths of a mile on Saturday. He biked 6 and 67 hundredths miles on Friday. How many more miles did Mr. Shadid bike on Saturday than Friday? Okay, wait. I'm sorry. I actually said I was going to try to do an equation first and then model on this one, but I hadn't read it yet. And I will say that I think modeling this one will help me way better. So I am going to model this because here's what I'm seeing and thinking, right? Once again, we got this number, we got this number, and then we want to know how many more miles. So if I model this, like I'm going to go ahead and think about Saturday. I'm going to call this Saturday box right here. And on Saturday, I biked 45 and 78 hundredths of a mile. That was my distance right there. Okay. And on Friday, I biked 6 and here we go. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna call this my Friday box. On Friday, I biked 6 and 67 hundredths of a mile, right? Which is shorter distance. So see how I'm modeling that right there? It's a shorter distance. And what we want to know is how much more did I bike on Saturday than Friday. So what we want to know is this piece right here, this missing piece right here. So I'm gonna call this M for miles, actually. I like that. And so there's my model because what it's actually showing me is I'm trying to find that difference, that missing piece. And so adding these two numbers together wouldn't help me. Adding them would just say how far did I bike altogether, and that's not what it wants to know. It wants to know how much further, right, I biked. Which would, technically it could kind of it'd be, oh wow, that's weird. Sorry, I don't like that. Let's do another color. Technically, it's like trying to figure out what this space is, which would be the same as like this space here, right? So this is in terms of a subtraction problem. So now we're going to do that equation. So when thinking about that equation, what I'm being asked to do is I'm saying 45 and 78 hundredths of a mile minus 6 and 67 hundredths of a mile will equal my total miles that I'm looking for, or M. Now, again, that's my equation. I'm done because it's just telling me what to do. I can use it. That's like, oh, yeah, this is how I know. Now, let me just go do that work. So to do that work, I'm actually going to stack. And in this case, I'm going to do some modeling to do this one. So come over here. We have what? 4 place values. So I have, put my decimal there. We have the ones, we have the tens, we have the tenths, and we have the hundredths. I got 4 tens. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I got right here, right? I got 5 ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 7 tenths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 800s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Cool. All right. Now, again, if you're like, what's this modeling thing? There is a whole video on this, and I always recommend go back and watch these other videos. So I'm going to go ahead and come in, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take 700ths away. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That leaves me with one lone hundredth alone there. I'm going to now come and take 6/10ths away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, and that leaves me 1/10 that's left. I got this decimal right here that I'm just going to bring down and plop right there. And then I need to take six, what do they call ones away. Oh, that's the one I cannot do because look, right? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I cannot take six away. So we're going to decompose this 10 and turn it into 10 ones. So there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And now I can go in and take six away. So I'm going to change colors for that now because it's getting a little confusing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that leaves me with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I have 9 ones left. And then I have no tens over here to take away. So that just leaves me with 3 of them here. So there is my answer. And so again, I can just rewrite that with an answer with a label. So our final answer for this was 39 and 11 hundredths of a mile, or miles, was how much more I traveled. So there's my answer right there. And again, notice I'm not doing anything. I guess I was underlining these numbers down here for you to see. So maybe I should get rid of those because again, I'm not doing anything to my equation in this case because the equation is just telling me what I'm going to do. So again, here are our 3 components. Oh, this is so fun. I love this. I actually absolutely love this. I have a model, I have an equation, I have work. This time I used modeling, and then I have a labeled answer. So I know I've been rushing through these. It's all good. I think it's hopefully clicking and making sense after a couple. I'm going to put together one last one. And again, as always, this is the awesome opportunity to go ahead and pause the video and see if you can't tackle this one yourself. So let's take a look at this. I will read it. Feel free to pause me after that. It says you have $30 to spend. Woo, look at me. I'm excited. I got money to spend. You buy a shirt for $12.57 and a hat for $6.99. How much did it cost total? How much money do you have left over? Oh, this is a tricky one because I know what I'm seeing right away is I got double question marks, which means I need 2 answers. 2 question marks means 2 answers. So I'm gonna encourage you to pause this, see if you can't work through the 2 parts, and then go ahead and come back and we'll tackle this. So hopefully you have this work in front of you and on your journal. Let's go ahead and walk through this and see what's going on. So like I said, I'm seeing a couple of things going on. One thing I know for sure is this question 1. It's this first question. That $30 to spend is exciting and it is important, but this first question says you bought a shirt for $12.57 and a hat for $6.99. How much does it cost total? So in this case, I did go with my equation right away because that's what that first part is asking me to do. It's asking me to take $12.57, $6.99, and I'm gonna put them together. So that's addition, and there's my equation. Now I can easily turn this into a model because now if you remember, in this case, we would have what is known as the total, right? That's that T I'm looking for. And then I have 2 parts. Wow, that kind of fell. One part is 699 and the other part is 1257. And you can physically see how when those 2 parts are put together, it would equal our answer, which is the same length as that T or total box. So that model's cool. I like that model. I like that model. I'm into it. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do that math. I like to do that math. I'm going to stack So we're going to go 12 and 57 hundredths plus 6 and 99 hundredths. I'm going to start in my hundredths place. So 9 right up here. 9 plus 7 is 16 or 1 uh or 16 hundredths, if you will, which means my 10 is going over into the tenths place. I'm now in the tenths place. I'm going to say 9 plus 1 gets me 10 or 1 whole, and 10 plus 5 is 15. So I got a 15 there. This comes here. Decimal is going to drop straight down. I got 6 ones plus 2 ones plus 1 1. So that's 8. That's 9 ones. And then in my tens place, I have 110. So my total, or again, this T, right? And again, I'm not going to just write a label right here. I'm going to write this again over here. I'm going to say my total was $19.56. Okay, so I'm going to do this, and actually I'm going to say part one, because here's part one. Now, here's the crazy thing about two-part questions, right? If I make a mistake in part one, it's going to make the answer in part two wrong as well. So hopefully I've done my addition correctly. I know my steps are correct, but sometimes I might have made a mistake adding, and that's going to happen to us. It's all good. Just remember, if you're doing the right steps, feel good about it. Like, hey, sometimes we make errors. We accidentally add things wrong, or we subtract when we're supposed to add, or whatever, right? But I'm feeling pretty good about this. So let's move on to part two. So part two is asking me this, and I'm gonna probably have to change pages, but for now, I'm just gonna look at what part two is asking me to do. And it's the second question. And the second question says, well, how much money do you have left over? Well, what I do know is I started with 30. That's where it all began. And I do know now that the things I bought were $19.56. So that's telling me if I'm starting with 30 and then I have 1956 and the question is left over, this is telling me I'm doing some subtraction here. So I'm going to go to the next page. I got to look at these numbers real quick so I can remember them. But I'm going to go to the next page and I'm going to go with my equation first because I see the equation in my head. This is what I'm thinking, right? I have my $30 that I started with minus mine. This is where I should have paid more attention. How much was it for everything? $19.56. So minus $19.56 would equal however much I have left over. I'm going to call that M for money. Okay. And again, with a variable, you can call it whatever you want, right? M for money, C for cash. Oh, actually, I like that. Let's do that. I'm going to do C for cash. Okay, so there's my equation. So now when we think about what that looks like as a model, what we know is that actually the total is 30. That's the most it will ever get. And we are actually we're having these two parts. One part is that we're taking 1956 away, and the second part would actually be the answer we're looking for, which is C. So look at that model. Isn't that model awesome? I love this stuff. I love bar models. I think they're so cool because they really help me kind of make sense of this. All right, so now we're going to do the math. 30 minus 1956, 19 and 56 hundredths, right? We are talking about money in this case. Now, I notice I have a whole number and I have a decimal. So this was another lesson of that idea that, again, if I'm going to use these two, I'm actually going to make them both into decimals. So this 30, I'm going to convert into 30 and 0 hundredths because that's the same thing and it makes it look like a decimal. Now, it is a decimal. It doesn't make it look like it. It is a decimal. I should really think about what I'm saying. Now I'm going to subtract 19 and 56 hundredths. Now, again, I want to know, I just realized that maybe I read it over here. This is money. So when I go to label, I didn't want to make that mistake. Okay, so let's do some math. So we start over here in our hundredths place, but we have 0 and we're taking 6 away. That is not going to work, right? So I got to go over here. But the tens has nothing to help me. So I got to go to the ones. The ones has nothing to help me. So actually, I got to decompose this 10, leaving me with 2 tens. And then I got to take that and make it into 10 ones. So this is 10 ones, but this isn't where I need the help. So I'm going to take one of those ones away and give me 10 tenths. I'm going to get rid of these arrows over here now that we saw that. And that's gonna, what was I saying? Oh yeah, this is gonna get me 10 tenths, but I don't need tenths right now. So that's a 9. I actually need hundredths. So now I have 10 hundredths. So now 10 minus 6 is gonna get me 4 hundredths. 9, this is a 9 up here. 9 tenths minus 5 tenths will get me 4 tenths. My decimal is gonna drop straight down. 9 minus 9 is 0 ones. And then I have 2 10s minus 1 10. That's going to get me 110. So there is my final answer. I got $10.44 left. I'm going to circle this and call it part two. And that is that, y'all. We did it. Okay. I know a little bit longer, but hopefully you're getting the sense of it. I'm gonna do a quick jump back up to our page with our steps so we can go back and review to just wrap up today and think about what's going on. The importance of doing this work is gonna help us make sense of these word problems. How can we create an equation and a model? How is it then we go and solve? Because the model and the equation are going to tell us how to solve. And then how do we take that answer and make sure we write it with a label next to it? And with money, I can just do a dollar sign. That's a label. That's good enough. That's a label. This works. But with anything else, right? I gotta make sure I'm saying like 4 inches or um hot dogs. I don't know. Maybe you're having a hot dog eating contest. Oh my gosh, that'd be such a fun question. Okay. With that being said, I'm out of here. You're out of here. Keep up the good work. We'll catch you next time.